All right, welcome everyone. We're really very excited, all of you that are here today, and hope everyone's doing well and in spite of all the craziness that's going on right now. My name is Cindy Stanley. I'm the Executive Director for the Accounting and Financial Women's Alliance. And we are very excited today to have Ty Hendrickson presenting Loyalty, the Overlooked Growth Strategy. So this is a new program of hers, and we're very excited to have her here. Ty does a lot of work for AFWA, and she's a great friend of our organization. So just a couple housekeeping items. We wanted to let you know that this program qualifies for one CPE unit based on 50 minutes of instruction. There'll be 50 minutes of instruction with questions and answers at the end. And to qualify for the CPE, you do have to be on the webinar for the entire time, and you have to participate in all 3 polling questions. So please remember that as we go through. And if you have questions as we go, you can log them into the Q&A part of the webinar, and we'll try to get to those as we go along. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Ty. As I mentioned, she's a great friend of AFWA's, and Ty is a CPA with almost 20 years of experience in both public accounting and sales. Ty worked as an accountant at firms ranging from small to large prior to moving into the accounting technology sector, successfully building sales training programs for both Wolters Kluwer and Bloomberg BNA. And working in different areas of the accounting industry, Ty recognized that the sales and business development skills are a necessary part of the job of a CPA, but also the most underserved in terms of skill development and training. Ty's passion is to provide the tools necessary for accountants to not only be successful, but also enjoy business development. Ty has a bachelor's degree in accountancy from Transylvania University in Lexington, Kentucky. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn the program over to Ty. And if any of you have any questions as we go along, please, feel free to write those in the Q&A. And Ty, thank you on behalf of AFWA so much for being here. We know how difficult of a time this is for everybody, and we're very pleased to be able to present this as a member benefit to all of our members during this difficult time. So thank you.
All right, perfect. Well, Cindy, I think I have my screen pulled up. Can you guys see that and hear me okay?
I can't see your screen.
Okay, let's see what we got going on here. We've practiced this, guys, so I promise you it works. So bear with us for just 1 second. Let me make sure we can get this shared. You would think that we would, be able to do better than this, right, Cindy?
I will get it. Looks like you froze up again, Ty.
All right, let's see if we can make this happen.
There we go.
Let's see if we can't make this work. There, so I think I see Cindy, I see myself, I have our Q&A panel up. Oh, good, Ann said she can see and hear me, perfect. So, Ann, I'm sure you're enjoying the lovely view of my treadmill behind me. This is the incredible setup we've got going on right now. I'm sure you guys all can, I'm sure you guys all understand exactly what we're going through. I've got a husband at home that's a CPA that's working. I got 2 kids at homeschool, so I get the basement office. So, with that said, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you, Cindy, so much for the kind introduction. I'm really excited to take you guys through this new session today. It's interesting because I work with a lot of firms and companies on growth and profitability and what makes people grow. And a lot of that comes from sales, as Cindy mentioned. Like I said, I'm a CPA that worked in public practice and has now spent time in sales and now work with people to help improve their growth. Well, one of the things I started looking into was more so how client service plays into this, how you can build better processes and procedures around service. And I stumbled upon the book, The Loyalty Effect, which actually I have it right here. If anybody doesn't have this, it was a Harvard Business Study book that it really kind of inspired this thought process and inspired some of the things that we're going to talk about today. So if you are looking for something to read, I would highly recommend it. It's a great book. But what it really talks about is how the different areas of loyalty play together in order to build a strategy that focuses around growth, and how a lot of people really don't think about this when they're thinking about their own growth strategies and how important it is in the overall process. So what we're going to go through today is really how this is perfect timing. And I hate to say that, you know, going through this process and learning about what loyalty means in terms of growth was perfect timing with the pandemic, but truthfully, everything changed about a month ago. I mean, life as we know it, everything changed. My kids are home. You know, luckily, I'm still working. My husband's still working, but a lot of people are either working from home if they're lucky enough to have a job, and businesses are closing and they don't know when they're going to reopen. So it's given everybody some time to kind of take a step back and refocus and figure out, you know, exactly what this means for you. And what's interesting is that we, as whether you're an accountant, whether you work in a corporate area, in finance, anywhere you are working where you are guiding people's decisions and helping people muddle through this crazy time of financial questions and struggles, you know, this is something where we actually have a unique opportunity to impact what happens in the coming months, impact the success of these businesses, and impact what's going to happen going forward. And a lot of that, you guys are focusing on how you're going to, you know, how you guys are going to muddle through this, how your clients are going to muddle through this. And you start thinking in the two different ways. You start thinking, a lot of people are thinking short term. How do we cut costs? Do we pay for any of these extra things? What are we going to do to survive short term? But what I want to challenge you guys to do today is take a little mindset shift and start thinking outside of the box, is how we can focus internally and look at what we're doing as a company, as a firm, as an organization to better prepare ourselves to come out stronger on the other side. And that means growth. So what we're talking about here is growth crisis. And I know this is a really scary thought right now. It's scary for a lot of people because most people, when they think of growth, they think of new business. They think of acquiring new business. They think of bringing new clients, new customers, more money in. And, you know, right now, that traditional definition of selling is probably making you a little uncomfortable. It probably it gives you a little stress thinking about, well, gosh, I got to grow. I got to go out and find new clients. And this is just not the time. And that's fine. That's a normal thought process. I think we all have it. I know I have it. So if we want to think about growing in a crisis, we have to think differently. And you can still have growth from profitability. If we're not looking at adding new business, adding new clients, adding new revenue dollars, there's a different way to look at it. And that's looking at it from a profitability perspective. And there's a lot that goes into driving profitability and driving that bottom line number. But a big part of that is efficiencies that are a direct result from loyalty. So when you think about a long-term growth strategy, we really like to think of it in the way of your growth is equal to the new business you bring in and the loyalty that you bring in from your clients and your employees and your culture, right? So it's got to be a combination of the new stuff and the loyalty, right? So why are we talking about this? Well, if you just focus on new business, then you're completely, and sorry, I keep moving around. I'm such a hand talker. You guys hopefully are okay with that. But when you don't think about new business and you think about the other part of that equation, you've got to think about what happens with turnover. So, and this comes directly from the Loyalty Effect book, which is a little bit older. So I did some fact checking and these numbers are absolutely still relevant. But what most companies and firms look at in terms of turnover is year over year, most companies or firms see about a 15 to 25% turnover in individuals. They're also going to see about a 10 to 30% client deflection going to somebody else, right? So the question you pose here is, how do you expect to grow a profitable business when 20 to 50% of your most valuable assets are walking out the door every year? So in order to just get to a zero-sum game, you have to replace those employees and clients. Then on top of that, any new business is going to impact your growth as well. So if we're not looking to add new business, if we can reduce this turnover, if we can reduce the employees that leave, the clients that leave, increase our retention, that's going to increase efficiencies, which we'll look at in just a little bit. That's going to impact that bottom line growth, right? And then once we get out of this, can you imagine what that means when you don't have to replace all of these things that are walking out the door year over year, and you can better capitalize on that new business that you're bringing in? So how does this impact us right now? Well, it is a little different because we are in a crisis. So I would fully expect firms and companies to see less of a turnover this year. If people still have a job, they're trying to do anything they can to keep that job. But on the flip side, I honestly think you're probably going to see a higher client deflection rate because everyone is looking at how to cut costs, and that includes your clients. And so if you are not providing value, then they're not going to want to pay that bill. So they have to fully believe in the value behind the services you're providing, or else they're going to see this as a cost that they can get rid of as well. So part of what we're going to talk about in client service is the value that you're delivering in order to help this as we go through the crisis. So let's talk a little bit about human assets. And, you know, it's weird to use the term human assets, and most people don't look at the individuals that work for them or their clients as assets of your firm or company. A lot of that is your inventory. That's the stuff that you're selling. That's the stuff that you're actually putting out for revenue generating purposes, right? But I love this story that highlights the difference in what this looks like. Is if you think about a car dealership, right? Let's say that they come in one day and the manager of the car dealership or the owner realizes that they have a stereo system or a few stereo systems missing, right? So what are they going to do when they're checking inventory? They're going to turn that place upside down looking for their missing stereo system, right? Because it's something that they're selling and that they can't find it, so they need to figure out what happened to it. But what happens when that car dealership's most loyal customer decides not to come back? What happens when they walk out the door? Most of them just shrug their shoulders and think, you know, that's fine, we'll get another one, right? But if you think about it, the human that walked out the door, the long-term revenue that would come from that customer far exceeds that car stereo that was lost. But they spend more time trying to figure out where the car stereo is. So why are humans not more important to your firm when they're the ones that are delivering all of these services that you're providing? Now, I know that, you know, whether you're involved in recruiting or not, or whether you're involved in getting new business or not, you know that there's a lot that goes into finding employees and finding new clients and figuring out how to get those people in the door. There's time invested, there's people invested, there's money invested, and then there's the time of getting them up to speed. So if you could eliminate that time and you realize the importance of those individuals, why are we letting them walk out the door year over year if it's something that could be preventable? So we're going to think about growth before we can look at outside growth, before we can look at how we're going to grow above and beyond what we have today. This is a great time to look inward, right? We're all being required to slow down, take a little bit of a breather. So at this point, this is an awesome time to start looking inside. With this, we've got to have a mindset shift. And I know fear and stress and everything that's going on right now is really pushing towards a scarcity mindset and stress about what's happening, and you don't want to rock the boat. And, you know, I don't know if it's the time to invest in my people or figure out how to service my clients better. I don't know if it's time to do that, but got to go back to the fact that we have a real opportunity to impact the success and the survival of all of these businesses and companies that we're working with. So in order for us to do that, we have to be our best, right? We have to be able to service our clients the best. We have to have the right people to service those clients. And so taking a chance and focusing inward is going to, in turn, better help us service them going forward. So a lot of this is we've got to focus on our employees, our clients, and our firm or company culture. And the way we do this is a lot of personalized interaction, which is what we're going to talk about in just a second. But think about it this way. If you could figure out a way to make the work you do on all of your clients or the individuals in your firm just 10% more efficient, what would that mean to your bottom line coming out of the pandemic and getting set up for future success? So when you think about it and you implement this properly as a whole, this is going to not only help you set you up for success later, but it's going to increase revenue. It's going to bring in new business as a side effect, and it's going to set you up for success long term as we move on down the road. So how do we do this? Well, you'll hear me talk a lot through this on the circle of loyalty, and that really involves three factors. You've got your firm culture, you've got your employee assets, and you've got your client service, right? And the biggest thing is I'm sure everybody on the call can recognize the importance of all three of these. We talked to so many firms, so many individuals that say, we're really focusing on firm culture. We're really focusing on developing that culture. It's where it's at. That's what we need to do. Or we're really focusing on investing in our employees. We're really making sure that we've got the best people that are best, set up for success. Or they may say we're really investing in client service. Our goal, our focus is making sure we really provide the best service possible to our clients. But what they fail to see is how interconnected that this all is. In order for this to work, in order for this to hit that bottom line growth and profitability, all three of these have to be in sync and they have to be executed and working well together. So that brings us to polling question number one. I'll go ahead. Cindy, do I need to unshare in order for you to do the polling question, or can you do it from here? There we go.
I believe I can do it from here. So
it just popped up. So everybody go ahead and answer polling question number one. I think Cindy will give you some time to do this. And then if anybody does have any questions, feel free to pop those in the Q&A section, and I'm happy to answer those as we go through some of these polls too.
And just as a reminder too, if you are logging into the webinar on a cell phone and would like a CPE certificate for this, please put your name and phone number in the chat area, and that way we can make sure that you get a CPE certificate for this.
Good. Check our time. End up having too much to say.
Okay, so it looks like we've got 53 of the 60 that have voted.
Good. What's our highest vote? Do you know?
It looks like we've got 62 participants on, so we'll give just a couple more minutes for anybody that wants to still vote on it.
Good. Yeah, and I saw some chats in here that, some are unemployed, so you're basing your answers on your last employee. That's totally fine, absolutely fine. Maybe this will give you an idea of something you can do on your own to bring in some business while you're, bring in some revenue while you're hunting for another job. All right, I think we're ready to move on. If they haven't answered, they're probably not paying attention. What do you think, Cindy?
Yeah, let's go. I'll just make sure we got a copy of this and we'll go. Go ahead and go.
All right. I don't know if you have to close the poll. There we go. All right, perfect. All right, so let's jump back in and start taking these one by one. So I want to talk a little bit about firm culture. Oh, there's the results. Look at that. All right. So firm culture, the direct result, firm culture is going to be your direct result of intentional strategies for your firm, but also for your clients and employees. So everyone wants a thriving firm culture. Everybody wants this because it does attract and retain the best employees. It has an impact on clients, but first and foremost, it has, it definitely is the way to attract the best employees. And if that's one of the biggest things we hear in the industry right now is people are having trouble finding and keeping good people. Well, the problem really is, and we'll get into a lot of the details in just a second, but most people don't understand what firm culture really means, right? They think it's about happiness and happy hours and all this kind of stuff, but what it really is it's about having a clear vision and clear values that align with employees and that allow employees to buy into it as their own. If employees buy into the vision of their company or their firm, that's when firm culture is going to be successful, right? So just to give you guys an example, let's see if I can get to it, of, I want to give you guys some outside examples of what this looks like just so you can understand it. You know, Southwest is a great example of culture. And for anybody that's ever flown, you know that airlines are really not known for being customer friendly, customer service friendly. They're not known for that. You know, some of them are good. Some of them, you know, do what they need to do, but it's just not what you think of when you think of customer service. But Southwest can be a little bit of a different experience. They've been in business 40 years, and they set one of the best standards for culture. And they do this because they communicate their vision to their teams in a way that unites them to a common goal. So I love the fact that they actually give their employees permission to go the extra mile to make their customers happy. And this empowers them to do what they need to do, which helps them meet the company mission, right? It gives them a sense of being, and it gets them bought in to what they need to do. And so they feel like a part of a larger, more common goal, and they're more excited to be part of that purpose. So if you've ever flown Southwest, you can probably think back to that, you know, that flight, that interaction, and it helps you see that it is a little different on Southwest, and that their employees do embrace the culture of the airline a little bit better than a lot of the other airlines out there. All right, let's talk about client service. This is said day in and day out that client service is the key to success for any organization, but what does it really mean? I think part of the problem with this too is that people don't truly understand the baseline and the definitions for client service, right? Client service is more than just delivering on expectations. First and foremost, it means that you understand who your ideal client is, because you have to offer value above and beyond to your client in order to deliver on client service. And if you look at your client and the value that you deliver and it doesn't match up, that's not your client. And if you're working with everybody that there is out there and everybody that you can find, you're never going to become efficient. And part of delivering exceptional client service is building in efficiencies. If you're on a one-off basis, you're never going to be able to be efficiently delivering client service. You're going to be at everybody's beck and call, right? So first and foremost, you've got to understand who your ideal client is. And then the second piece is this, it goes beyond doing what you're engaged to do, whether that's a tax return or an audit or whatever you're supposed to do for your client. It goes above and beyond that. You have to provide so much value to your clients that they can't imagine not working with you, right? So this means instead of focusing on meeting expectations, you focus on surprising them and overwhelming them with value. And when you have employees that do this and then get invested in their clients and their clients' business and personally understand what's going to make them survive this pandemic, that's where partnerships are formed, and those partnerships are the basis of loyalty in that long-term relationship. So I love this example. Leo Burnett is an advertising agency, and they're probably one of the best examples of a focus on client service. It's interesting because the way they're set up is that they have each of their senior managers to where they only manage one client at a time, right? That's so that they can learn the client's business inside and out. So they are focused solely on one client all the time. It kind of sounds crazy, but when you look at what they do and how they do it, their productivity is 15 to 20% higher than anybody else in the industry, and their closest competitor is that far behind them. So when you look at productivity and efficiency, that's profitability, right? So they're at leaps and bounds ahead of their competitors on this. They have a focus on investing in their new hires and in training and making sure that they go above and beyond to make sure they're ready to do their job, and they pay above average, which, you know, when the profitability comes into play, that's something they're able to do. Now, on the flip side of this, this also means that they see around a 98% retention rate in their revenue and their clients that come back year over year. So combine that retention rate with the productivity and the efficiencies that happen year over year, and those efficiencies just keep getting greater and greater, and the profitability goes up as well. In the end, when you're working one-on-one with somebody, you're going to be seen as a trusted advisor. You're going to develop that relationship, and that relationship is what builds the loyalty long-term. So let's talk a little bit about employee assets. So most people hire great talent so that they'll take over, so that they have an opportunity to take their firm further, to take their company further, but they try to hire the best people out there. But a lot of times when they do this, unfortunately, they almost put them on like some type of probation, and they're so excited to have these new people, but then they don't really invest in them until they've proven themselves. And it can be a vicious cycle because employees have needs that need to be met in order for them to be, you know, a good employee, and they need to be happy, and they need to be motivated, and that's what's going to develop their loyalty, right? So the way that firms are functioning or companies are functioning that are attracting and retaining the best employees are the ones that are focusing more on one-on-one interactions, more on one-on-one career pathing, one-on-one coaching, and figuring out what these people's strengths are. If you find their strengths, that's going to help you become more profitably. So if you focus your strategy to capitalize on the individual talent that you already have in your company, that's what's going to win loyalty, because they're going to feel that investment, and that's going to come back to you tenfold in loyalty. So a good example of a company that that really focuses on their employees, and it's interesting to see some of the statistics here. So State Farm, which I'm sure you guys have all heard of, they own about 20% of the market share, and they have the lowest sales and distribution costs in the market, but yet they pay their agents more than any other competitors. They have a 95% retention rate, and a lot of this is based on the fact that they have a loyalty strategy in place. They focus on incentives, agent selection, training, career paths, customer acquisition, pricing. All of these factors and more go into a strategy around value and loyalty. And the flip side to this is that their agents stay at State Farm twice as long as the competition, right? And so if you're keeping people longer, efficiency comes into play. And what they've seen is they actually have a 40% higher productivity rate than their competitors across the industry. So think about your firm, think about your company. What could a 95% retention rate and a 40% productivity increase do for your bottom line at this point? It's huge. And when you look at these amazing companies that are doing all of this, it really kind of puts it into perspective how important this, you know, internal focus is. So we'll go ahead and jump into polling question 2, and I'll turn it over to Cindy to be able to do that. Do a quick time check. We're good.
Let's see here. Okay, can you all see it?
I can see it.
All right, great.
Love to have some questions. Makes me feel like that there's somebody on the other side of this. It's always fun when the presentations, and I'm just kind of watching my face. I'm like, man, I'm, you know, talking to myself over here. I feel like a crazy person. But I do that all the time. You can ask my husband or my kids, so it's not anything new.
It looks like we got about 53 of 58 that can vote. So we'll give you just one more minute and then we'll end the polling.
What advice do you give for lower level employees to positively impact firm culture? I love this. Thank you for the question. While we're wrapping up polling, we're going to talk a little bit in just a second about how we can focus firm culture. But one of the things I would say, even as a lower level employee, is do you know, oh good, so the weakest are their employee assets. That's interesting. Sorry, I am very much a shiny object person. So Victoria, I'm sorry that I did not finish your question. But my first question back to you would be, do you know what your vision and your values are for your firm? Do you know what the goals are for your firm and how you would even start to get bought into it, right? A lot of firm culture comes from the top down, right? And that's the hard part about this. But firm culture is all about engagement, and it's all about working towards that greater goal. So if you do know what those greater goals are, you can take some initiatives, right? A lot of what I would probably recommend, we'll talk about in a second, but get involved with the firm. See if maybe you can start a committee. See if maybe you can start a group. Some of this can be during work, after work type stuff is more morale boosting, but it's a part of it. You've got to have happy employees. So I would say try to figure out what the goals are for your organization and then figure out a way that you can invest yourself or maybe start a movement or start some type of activity, get people involved and get people excited about that vision and move forward. So we'll talk about some of that in a second. I hope that made sense. Okay, we got another question. Let me jump into this and we'll have time for questions in just a second. I promise you we will get to them. But I don't want to miss out on any of the content too. Okay, so now that we've talked about each individual piece, we're going to talk about how all of them fit together and some tangible ways that you can put these in place, right? So talking about clients, I like to start here because it really is probably the most common place that people focus their sights on when they're talking about culture. I'm talking about clients. And my question to you is does your firm have a strategy? Does your company have a strategy? Is it communicated, and how do you ensure that it's implemented? So one of the things, if you don't have a strategy in place and your firm doesn't have a strategy in place, inquire about it, ask about it, figure out what you can do to help move that needle along. But the thing that I also point out to leaders is if you don't have a strategy in place, you can't assume that everyone has the same definition of client service as you do, right? You can't assume that everyone is going to provide the same level of service to your clients as you do. So it's so incredibly important to have these processes in place and expectations to figure out what needs to be done. So I love this quote. This is by Quicken founder Scott Cook. It says, if you can't please your current customers, you don't deserve any new ones. So I just want that to sink into you guys. And that means that just because someone has agreed to do business with you doesn't mean you can slack on the value you provide. You've got to move beyond pleasing your clients and surprise and overwhelm them, and they'll become your best salespeople in return. So this is all interconnected because then they're going to start bringing you in new business. So what makes good client service? These are the 4 things that, if you're looking at client service, if you're starting to think about this, if you're evaluating what you do in your own firm, I want you to think about these 4 areas. 1 is value. I mean, this is above and beyond everything else. You have to provide value beyond what you agreed to do. And in turn, this also has to be value that's above and beyond what someone else could provide them as well, right? It's super competitive right now. A lot of people are looking for the best price for the value. So you need to make sure that what you're offering someone is different than what they're going to get somewhere else. So the question I pose back to you is, do you know why someone should work with you as opposed to any other accountant out there? Because if you don't know, the likelihood is they don't know either. So start there and figure out why someone should be working with you. Second part to delivering client service is having genuine interest. If anybody follows me on LinkedIn, you know I had a little soapbox moment last week. So feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn to see that. But this whole thought process of servicing people and providing value, it has to come from a genuine place. I mean, it's crazy to me that people think that there's a one size fits all and there's a way to just provide blanket client service. It comes from wanting to develop a relationship. It comes from wanting to learn them as an individual and learn their business inside and out, so that you then have a vested interest in their business, because that's what they're looking for right now. Any clients you have that are trying to muddle through the craziness that's going on and trying to figure out if their business is going to survive, they need someone that's invested. They need someone that knows them inside and out, and that only comes from that genuine interest, right? So you have to really involve yourself in what they need and how you develop that relationship. So my question to you here is, can your client say that you have a vested interest in them and that you know their business inside and out? Because if you are not that person, the likelihood is that they are searching for someone else to do that for them right now. Then the third part is communication, availability, execution, accuracy. I mean, this whole execution phase is incredibly important. You have to be accurate. That goes without saying, right? But then you have to focus on your communication. Do you know how your clients want to communicate? Every client's different. You can't assume that there's a one-size-fits-all solution here. So you've got to focus on what's in it, what they do well and what they need. So do they want to be in the know, or are they just a need to know type person? Do they want to communicate via email? Do they want to communicate via the face-to-face? Do they want just a phone call? How easy are you to get in touch with? I mean, this is something that your response time is good, great, but how easy is it for them to get in touch with you? How proactive are you to reach out? What's going on with the execution of this? Because they want someone that's going to be in a relationship with them, and that's part of it. That's a determining factor. Your execution is a determining factor on how their loyalty progresses. And then finally, appreciation. Appreciation, really, this is the human nature side of it. And some people may not think that this is important when we go through this, but everyone has, those human nature needs, and this appeals to it. So this is really about delivering something that's thoughtful and unprovoked. It can be something as simple as, content, whether it's an article or an event or something that will help them genuinely, or something like a birthday card or a congratulations note. Just something to prove that you don't think of them as just another client. It's just, again, proving that genuine interest. It's so important right now to stand out in this competitive market, and client service is the biggest way that you can do that, because if you have clients that absolutely love working with you, they're going to tell other people. And if you can keep them, that reduces all that trouble that you have going out finding new ones. So, ways to improve client service. Take a note out of Leo Burnett's book. Can you assign account ownership and limit the number of accounts that people are assigned to? A lot of this I know is about pushing things down, and you're like, well, I brought in that client, I want to work with them, I need to be that point of contact. But think about it this way. If you can categorize your clients into different buckets so that maybe you can push some of those lower level clients down, you're giving staff or younger people or newer people the ability to develop those communication skills in a less risk environment. But it's also going to free up your time to get more invested in those bigger and better clients. It's going to give you the ability to really dive into that relationship and do what you need to do. So think about that. Second, create community, both internal and external. the best way to deliver exceptional client service is to know more and learn more and just be the best that you can in your area of expertise. So if you are at a big firm or a big company where you can put together communities that meet, that all focus in the same area and share that expertise, share best practices, learn from one another, that's going to trickle down to your clients as well. You can do this externally in a non-competitive format. You know, you guys are all part of an association where you're learning from other people. Do you have a lot of clients in one area that you could find a way to bring them together to share knowledge? Give them the opportunity to learn from each other and to become better. I mean, that's a great way to provide client service. Third, become proactive with your outreach. So focus on not waiting until they call you to reach out, but figuring out how often they want to hear from you, and then doing it without being asked, right? Whether that's just checking in, whether it's scheduling time so that you know, so that everybody knows you're going to meet quarterly. It just means that don't wait until they call you to call them. We've got to figure out ways to reach out. And then the last piece is establish processes that show appreciation. This is a huge piece to this, because if you don't have standard processes in place, if you don't have someone that's responsible for this or a group that's responsible for this, you get too busy. This is a lower level item that can be overlooked quite often. So figure out a way to track people's birthdays, figure out a way to track important milestones, figure out a way to segment your clients and tag them with areas of interest. So if something comes down that would be of relevance to them, it's easy to identify those people and have that outreach. So processes to show appreciation are going to be huge in executing on client service. All right. So talking about employees, this is a little bit harder because it's not the traditional investment. A lot of companies or firms will send people to conferences or invest in their training when it's to progress to the next step in their career. But the truth is, this needs to happen more. This is not enough. It has to happen earlier. And there's a lot more that needs to happen in order to get that investment in your individuals. So this is kind of the chicken and the egg scenario that I think every firm and company is struggling with right now. They hire all these amazing people. They bring in the top talent. They find the best person out of the group of candidates to bring in and have them start working in the firm. But then they don't start investing in them immediately. They want to see that loyalty. They want to see that that they deserve to be invested in. But gone are the days where people are loyal just because they're given a break. Gone are the days that people stay at one firm or one company their entire career. People are looking for more, and you have to recognize that. You have to recognize what the top talent needs and wants, whether you agree with it or not. And you have to do that in order to attract and retain those people. And what they need is they need a personalized investment in their career path. You need to find out individually what people, what their goals are, what they want to do, how you can help them achieve those goals, how you can move their needle forward, and figure out a way to work with them individually. This is by and large the biggest reason that people leave, and it's what most people fail to see as a reason to leave. So how do we fix this? Make sure we're good on tongue. So like I'm not moving fast enough, and I know I'm talking fast. Okay, so ways to improve your employee investment. One, have a clear and communicated career path. This is so incredibly important, and the reason that so many people quit is because they don't feel like they have opportunities where they are. And a lot of times the leadership actually has these ideas in their head, but they haven't communicated it. And so there's this disconnect, and that's what causes people to detach and become disloyal and look for other opportunities. So if you have clear career path goals set out and people know what those are, and you're constantly revisiting them more than once a year at your employee review, then that's going to help improve the retention on these top individuals. It needs to be addressed all the time. We need growth opportunities at all levels. You've got to be able to, you can't wait until someone moves into a partner role or moves into a senior level role to give them growth opportunities. Think of creative ways to get people involved. And this goes back to the firm culture, right? This goes back in the same way, your staff. Can you get them involved in the community? Buy some goodwill in the community by getting them invested, because a lot of times they're wanting to do that anyway. Can you have people that have been there a few years, like your seniors, become mentors? Set up a mentor program so that your new hires feel better acclimated into the company. There's a quicker ramp speed. There's a lot of stuff there. Can you have managers that maybe aren't hiring yet sit in on interviews so that when they do get to that point, they know how to interview? Think about what those next level skills are and see what opportunities you can provide at each level. I guarantee you that's going to bring loyalty back to you. We talked a little bit about personalized management and goals. The bottom line is managers and leaders need to take one-on-one opportunities with every employee. If you can't do every employee, the ones that you have a big plan for and big vision, get one-on-one with them. Find out their goals, find out their strengths, and then in turn, help them pursue their passion. Let them kind of drive that career. As long as it flows with the firm or flows with the company, it may open up a new revenue stream for you. So there's lots of different ways that you can invest in your employees and provide opportunities for them to build that culture. Which brings us to culture. All right. So culture comes from the overall leadership of the firm. It comes from understanding the value and the vision and having a clear alignment. So what is culture and what is it not? It's not ping pong tables. It's not happy hours. It's not all these fun things that people are doing. Yes, they help morale. Absolutely. But does having a ping pong table help your people get bought into the vision of the company or the firm? No. You have to figure out a way to communicate your vision and make sure that your employees' values align with your company's values, because if not, there's no long-term relationship there. It's a tough thing to think about. It's a tough thing to look at, but it is important that you have to look through that. Execution is going to be through communication. Open communication is where farm culture is built. So we'll talk a little bit about how you can do that in just a second. But the biggest thing is to know here is that if your employees don't embrace the big picture, then their job remains at just a job. They're not going to become loyal. They're not going to get invested. And if they don't know what you are doing at the top, then there's no way to build that firm culture. So ways to improve firm culture. One, open communication around the vision and the big picture. This has to happen all throughout. This should be part of recruitment. This should be part of onboarding. This should be a part of annual reviews. This should be a part of things that you do as a firm or a company all throughout the year. The firms that are great at this do things like town hall meetings once a month or once a quarter and talk about the state of the firm, talk about the state of the company. Let people in on what's going on. Let people in on some exciting things. Let people in on struggles, but let people in with as much as they need to know to get bought in. It's also an excellent opportunity to bring in some additional training for employee investments. It's an awesome opportunity to call out people for some wins and and to really congratulate people that have embraced culture and that have done things to move the needle forward. But open communication is one of the biggest determining factors on culture. Second, encourage teamwork and input. So you've got to be able to focus, you've got to change your focus on individual work, which still has to be done. Totally understand. But in order to build culture, you've got to put a focus on working together, finding ways to build teams, finding ways for people to learn from each other, and encouraging that rather than discouraging it. So if you can put some committees together, some niche areas, and set aside some time, it doesn't have to be much, but find ways to build that knowledge, build that skill set, and build that connection between those individuals and between the group and the firm. That's going to build on your culture. Second piece to that is always encourage feedback. If you are not welcoming the feedback from your employees, then it's going to be a detriment to the culture as well. Allow flexibility and demonstrate trust. This one was very timely with everything that's going on right now. It's important to set boundaries and processes and procedures. Now that people have to work from home, there's so much distrust when it comes to having people work from home, but you have to set boundaries and you have to set processes. So if you want them available from 9 to 5, then you know that. Or if they have a productivity goal that they need to hit, they need to know that. You have to set that in place, and then you have to demonstrate trust until they give you a reason not to. It's all on the processes and procedures that are communicated from the beginning as to how well that works. And then lastly, celebrate wins of all shapes and sizes. It's incredibly important to celebrate wins. Recognition is such a motivator for individuals. Find time, whether it's in a town hall, whether it's a monthly email, whatever you're going to do, but figure out ways to really promote the wins and celebrate the people that are doing great things at your firm or your company. So with that being said, we'll go to polling question 3, and getting close to the end of this. I know I'm talking very fast. Sorry. So Cindy, I don't know if you want to pop up. There we go.
Ty, we did have a question that I think, I don't know if you answered this one, but there is still one question outstanding, I believe. And I think Laura had a question too.
Yeah, the firm I left talked about having a great culture, but what actually occurred was the exact opposite. I didn't feel safe pointing this out, even in my exit interview. So what's the best way to bring this to attention? That is so hard, because if you don't feel safe, bring it out. My question to you is do you not feel safe because of the HR people that you were talking to, leadership? I mean, truly, if you left because of culture, that's, you know, that they need to know. But unfortunately, if you don't feel safe, that's a tough one. You know, I think you can always try to reach back out to someone there. For me personally, I would have said it during my exit interview. So many things, I just say it. But part of firm culture is allowing feedback, and they're not allowing feedback if you didn't feel safe giving it. One of the things you could do is go leave a Glassdoor review so other people know as they go into this. But other than that, the biggest learning experience I think that you have coming out of this is what to look for that you don't want in your next company, in your next firm. But if there's a way to reach back out and there's someone that you feel comfortable talking to, I definitely think that it's worth trying to let them know if you think someone at the top cares, because that's, if it's fallen on deaf ears, not deaf ears, sorry guys, then it's a tough one. It's so tough. All right, how are we doing on the polling question?
It looks like we got 54 out of 60 that can respond. So, you know, we do encourage you to reply to this so that you can get the CPE credit. And then I believe Laura had a question in the chat.
I'm going to have to find the chat in just a second.
I can read it if you'd like. It says, how can, and I believe Laura was talking about some of the employee segment that you were speaking on. She said, how can we leverage this to encourage employers to support professional development of their employees with professional associations, membership, and conferences?
Oh, that is an excellent question. And it all comes back to value, right? So the hard thing is you've got to find firms or companies that value education in order to get them bought into this. If they don't value education, part of your job is to educate them on why that employee investment is so important. So it's almost taking a step back and figuring out, you know, how you can demonstrate to the firms and the companies you're going to what that impact is going to be. And some of it is, you know, some of it's emotional, some of it's totally analytical. So you've got to kind of cover all your bases on that as to what it's going to do for them. And then I think that's going to be the biggest driver in because you guys, I know, focus a lot with individuals, right? Giving them the tools to go to their companies or their firms to show them what the value is behind them doing this. So I think that's the biggest piece to that. Hope that answered the question.
Great. All right, I think we'll go ahead and end the polling.
All right.
And
okay, so we will wrap this up because I know we're getting short on time, and I know I've talked about a lot of things throughout this. But basically, what does it mean when you bring all of this together? If you strengthen at least one piece of this, you're going to see benefits. But if you can find a way to bring the focus full circle and integrate this strategy, you're going to see that profitability and that growth in your bottom line number. You're going to have increased efficiencies, which we saw with State Farm and Leo Burnett and all those, that those productivity increases are going to be a big, big impact on your bottom line if you can drive those productivity increases. You know, you're going to find new revenue streams for your firm because you're going to start looking at ways to better service your clients. And then in the end, you're definitely going to have word of mouth referrals because people are going to, it's going to be your clients and your employees that are going to be talking about how amazing your company and firm is and why everyone should be working with them. So if we focus now in the short term on what we can do to really firm up each of these three areas, you're going to be set up for long-term success in the end that's going to grow leaps and bounds even after we get out of this crisis and you're able to get back to normal life as it's going to be, whatever that is. So just want to wrap up here by saying thank you. I know it was a lot of information. I think Cindy's going to give me everybody's email address so that I can send you this link. I did set up a special page for you guys to access this information. We have a free 10-page guide that walks you through basically everything I talked to with some more suggestions and a checklist on how to get started and areas to look into. So if you want to go to this site, it's thesalesseed.com/loyalty-strategy-AFWA. You'll have access to that guide. And then there's also a quiz that'll take you through, you know, if you don't really know where to start, give you an idea of where you might want to start. But it's going to give you some resources out there to take this and implement it as you guys move forward. And then as always, I love to talk, obviously, as you guys can tell. So feel free to email me, to call me. I would love to talk more about this with anybody. As you can tell, I'm very passionate about it. So just let me know what I can do to help you guys implement this as we move forward.
great. Well, thanks, Ty. I hope everybody has enjoyed the program today. We're very excited about, again, working with you. You always do such a great job in speaking to our members, and we're delighted to hear you again, and just had a great message today for everybody. So thank you so much for doing that for us again. Just to want to let you all know that we will be sending out CPE certificates. If you were on the call for the entire time, you will qualify for the CPE. When you logged in, we had a record of when you logged in, and we also have a record of when you log out. So that's your sign-in sheet basically for the course. So just want to let you know that. And on behalf of AFWA, I just really want to thank everybody and thank you for being a member of AFWA. We know that this is a very, very difficult time. So we just want to mention to everybody too, I know some people are coming up for renewal and having a difficult time. So if you want to continue to be a member of AFWA and need some help continuing your membership, please call us because we can work out some kind of a payment plan with you so that you can maintain your membership in AFWA. So please call us, and we're here to help in a lot of different ways. We've put some resources up on our website, and if you haven't checked out afwa.org recently, I encourage you to do so because we've got a lot of new information up there, and just want to thank you all so much for your membership and for participating in this program. And for those of you that aren't members, I do hope you join. And Ty, thank you so much for this program, and I just really appreciate you so much for everything that you do for us. So thank you, and check out our website for some other webinars that we got coming up. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Bye-bye.
Thanks.